Hello, welcome to Lounge Room Chats with Love Lali. This is an opportunity for us to have a deep and meaningful conversation, a lovely lunchtime chat to talk about health, wealth, connection and spirit. These are some topics that are very, very precious to my heart, and I love sharing the information that I've gathered over time, but also hearing about what everybody else likes to chip in with their ideas of health, wealth, spirit and connection. Hi Susan, I can see you have joined in. It's lovely to have you here in my lounge room for lunchtime chat. Today I wanted to touch on something that's, it seems to be everywhere you look. You hear about it all the time. The media makes sure we're fully aware of it. We even have it in our upbringing often. And I sometimes catch myself saying things to my own children that's going to perpetuate this particular thing that I'm talking about. Hi Joanne, it's so lovely to have you here. Thank you very much for joining me with all your senses open. So the thing that I wanted to talk about today is scarcity mindset. This idea that there's not enough. This idea that we're living in a world of lack. It's really, really interesting, and it's something that's very hard to get to the bottom of because it is so ingrained in our society in particular. And it seems to start. Hello Aidan, it's lovely to see you here. Thank you for joining me in the lounge room today. I'm talking about scarcity mindset today. And I think what has really brought it to the fore for me was watching a Four Corners program probably about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. The one where they were talking about the Australian population growing bigger and bigger and the changes that we would need to make as a population to manage that shift, to be able to stretch our resources, to be in a position to manage our increasingly growing aged population. Hi Aidan, thank you very much. It's so lovely to see you here today. And it got me thinking, it's an interesting position to be in. We are often referred to as the lucky country. And I'm just going to refer to a quote that Bernard Salt, who was on that particular Four Corners program, ended the program with. It was a very strong, resounding little quotation. He said, "We are a young, vibrant country." I'm just needing to pick up my piece of paper because my lighting's dim. "We are a young, vibrant, vital country with 25 million people sharing the resources of an entire continent. We should be prosperous for 100 years purely on the basis of that equation." And that really got me thinking. I mean, this is a man who is well known for his social commentary. You know, he's the managing director of the demographics group. I think he's got a pretty good grasp on the situation. So when he said that, it really made me stop and think. You know, yes, we do have quite an abundant country. We have a lot going for us. We have a growing population. We have a wonderful mix of cultures, of ideas. Susan's saying I've frozen for her. I'm hoping that's at your end, Susan, not mine. Can I see some thumbs up if I'm still operating for everybody else's benefit? Otherwise, I'm just going to continue on and hope that the freeze finishes very soon. So anyway, we are a young, vibrant country. We have an amazing population of incredibly talented people from all corners of the world. And I think between us, we have the intellectual capacity. Oh, Joanne, good to see it's all good for you. I know the feeling. Often my technology gives me a hard time and it's usually me who's locked out of things. So thank goodness you're able to stay tuned today. That's wonderful. So yeah, just talking about this idea of we live in such a wealthy country and yet so many of us walk around with that feeling in the pit of our stomach that there's just not enough, that there's not enough to go around, that I don't have enough, there's not enough time, there's not enough for everybody. It's a really interesting phenomenon and I really wonder where it comes from. A lot of it's to do with some of our childhood programming. Obviously we pick up, you know, the state of mind that our parents were in at a very early age and what resources were available for them and how they managed things in their world. Hi Michelle, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. And Susan, thank you for letting me know your computer's working and that's all good again. So yeah, I'm just really intrigued, and if there's anybody who's listening in at the moment who would like to contribute to the conversation about scarcity mindset and where it comes from, hi Michelle. I'd love to bring you on board to initiate a bit of a dialogue here and start some questions happening about where does this stem from, where does it come from, and why do we feel it so strongly, particularly showing up in the areas of money and time. They seem to be the resource areas in most people's personal worlds where we really feel the pinch of there's not enough to go around. And I know for myself, I sometimes get that feeling there's just not enough of me to go around when I'm dealing with the things I want to do for my business, the things that I want to do for my clients, the things that I have to do for my family, let alone what I want to do for them, and so on and so forth. And you know, I know that I'm not alone here. This is something that many people feel. And is it just a symptom of the society that we live in, or is there something deeper going on? What do you think? I'd be really interested to know. Susan Whelan, can I invite you on to give me your 2 cents worth on the scarcity mindset and where that stems from? Because it's not just in our personal world, and certainly it's not in Australia, but on a global level, we're often left with that feeling. Thanks, Adam. You're saying perception and programming that mainstream society has influenced upon everybody. Absolutely. I believe there's a very strong element of truth there that the media often sets the agenda for us, and we, unfortunately, like mindless sheep, will fall along with that idea. And Joanne, you're saying we believe we are programmed as kids to work hard and don't stop, always to, it's better to keep going to get more. Interesting, yeah, that you have to work hard, and not only that, you have to keep going if you want to get more. You can't ever stop and rest and just appreciate what you've got. And Susan, you're saying we are programmed about money as a child, and this becomes our money mindset. Absolutely. Thank you, Susan. I agree. And I feel that it's not just limited to money. Time is a really strong essence also. But there's also a feeling that I've noticed in the way our world turns at the moment. Things are getting faster and faster and faster. And it just feels like there's no alternative but to keep going at this frenetic pace, to keep getting more. To quote the Lorax, to keep biggering and biggering. I love that word. Well, actually, I don't think it was the Lorax. I think it was the guy who chopped down all the Lorax's trees that said that. I think my dog is having a wonderful time with the postie. Can you hear him in the background? He is barking like a maniac. I hope he stops soon. Anyway, so just this whole idea of the fast pace of our society and keeping up with the Joneses. Yes, Joanne, that's a really good point. This idea that we have to have a perception that we put out to the world in general, that we have to maintain this perception to show that we are keeping up with the Joneses, that our life is unfolding the way we'd like it to. Aidan is saying it's like the fears that we have only a couple that we were born with, while others are those that are pushed upon us by the media and other people. Hence why there are many shared fears of animals, and I need to scroll down to see more. Michelle is saying, I think this is different if you grew up in a third world country. Absolutely. People rely more on family. If you look around those who are happiest, they often have the least. Absolutely, Michelle. I'm really glad that you brought that point in, because there is that real dichotomy between us in an abundant first world environment. We do have so much. We have everything laid on a plate. And yet so many of us walk around feeling like there's not enough, like we don't have enough, like we'll never have enough. And yet you contrast that with some of the people who are living in one of the poorest countries of the world, and it's almost like their values are real, if you don't mind me saying that the reliance on family, the understanding of what really matters, those basic survival needs that must be met, but the reliance on community and family and the ability to seek to obtain happiness from that simplicity. You compare that to what Joanne was saying before about this need that we feel to keep up with the Joneses. So completely conflicting ways of being, or not even conflicting, completely different, diametrically opposed even ways of being between us in an abundant first world country and people who are maybe not so well off in the economical sense, but on the spiritual, social and personal fulfillment level, perhaps are streets ahead of us in the life bank, so to speak. So Susan, did you have something else you wanted to add in here? I see you've got the comment there, sure. Is that about the difference between what our environmental makeup is and how that impacts on what our mindset is? And, you know, that social conditioning that we have between those that do have heaps and those who don't have heaps, what our social conditioning in those environments are and how that leads to how we feel about abundance and scarcity, whether we feel sufficiency or whether we feel lack. Joanne is saying often we have heaps and we don't stop to enjoy this. As kids, we have plenty of friends that had wonderful houses, but we may have lived in sheds. Oh, okay, Susan, thank you for letting me know you've got a slow connection. That's fine. So when you feel ready to add to the conversation, I'm more than happy to invite you on board to have a chat or to just take on board your comments as they come through. That's perfectly fine. So yeah, this is a really interesting one that I find the idea of scarcity really impacts on the health and well-being of some of the people that I work with, because there's always that underlying stress factor of I have to keep going because I don't have enough. I have to keep on the treadmill and pay my bills because I don't have enough. It's a really interesting conflict. And Susan is saying that sufficiency is a collective consciousness. How we do one thing, we do everything. So that's an interesting idea to take on board. So if sufficiency is a collective consciousness, does that mean the way we view sufficiency in the first world outweighs the way people in the third world country, for instance, view sufficiency? Or do you think it's that the way we are in our society that's starting to dominate via media and cultural imperialism, dare I say, starting to feed through to some of the third world countries where now people who may have once been very content and fulfilled with the way their family lived and the way they upheld their own social values are now feeling that they're starting to lack because they see this shining tower of so much stuff here in the first world that they want that now? Are we maybe, by the way we operate in the first world, degrading the collective consciousness around sufficiency? I don't know. I'd be really keen to see what some of you think about that and what comments come along afterwards for us in this conversation. It's a really tricky one. And I didn't realise what a can of worms I would be opening when I thought, oh, let's talk about scarcity. So Joanne is adding, so there are some Europeans who did not live in their homes. And Michelle is saying, yes, the media definitely has a lot to answer for in spreading. And I'm just getting a message from Adair about not being able to find the live. I'm just going to see if I can I do two things at once? Can I talk? I'm not very good at this multitasking. I've spent a lot of time focusing on being mindful and present. So, you know, this idea of talking to you and chatting in a chat box, I don't think I can do it. My brain's just going, forget it. I'm focusing on you here because this is what's important right here, right now. And Susan Whelan says, I can come on and have a chat with you, Linda, if my connection behaves itself, which is fabulous. If I can work out, is this the one here? Susan, I'm not able to, here we go, invite Susan. I've just sent you an invitation, Susan, so let's see how that goes. And in the meantime, Michelle Hanton has commented saying, I think we are degrading ourselves by putting too much value on things. Absolutely, absolutely. The media does have some part to play with setting the agenda on how we think about the world around us. And there is certainly some reinforcement on things being the most important thing in our life rather than our values and our connection, and the most important thing, the spiritual side of ourselves. We certainly in the Western world, there is an absence of spirit, an absence of connection, and an absence of consciousness. So our love of things, of bright shiny objects, of having the newest, fastest, best is, I think, actually a sure path to destruction, not only of the planet, but also of our own sense of humanity and our own collective saneness, our own collective sanity. So, okay, Susan didn't receive that invitation. Let me just try that again. Add. Okay, so the invitation must be just taking its time, wending its way through to you, Susan, because I'm not able to resend it. So if it doesn't come through in time for this broadcast, I'm sure we'll have opportunities to connect in the future. Just keep your eyes peeled for it in case it comes through in Messenger for you. Aidan is saying, more mindfulness and less technology. One thing I like teaching a few people, absolutely. We have become more human doings and less human beings. Beautiful. I love the way you've captured that. More human doings and less human beings. Perfect. You've hit the nail right on the head there, Aidan. That's gorgeous. Would you like to come in and tell me a little bit more about that one? I love how you've summed that up. And Joanne is saying, maybe when we get caught in things, it's time for us to stop and reassess and go back to our core. Absolutely. And I think for a lot of us, the trick is actually noticing that that's what's happened for us. There's, I think there's a time in our lives, certainly like in our early 20s perhaps, when we're very focused on external, and Aidan has kindly taken up my offer. So let me see if I can add Aidan into the broadcast. We'll see how this works. And absolutely, I think, there's time in our lives where we are so focused on that external side of things. Adair, you found me. Thank you. Hey, Aidan, look at you. You're out in the beautiful sunshine world.
Yep, picking
Thank
roses.
you for joining.
That's okay.
Thank you very much for jumping in. So I loved how you summed that up. We've become more human doings and less human beings. That's fabulous. Can you expand on that any more for me?
It's a quote I heard a few years ago, and it hit right in the heart. So it reminded me that technology and the modern media has changed the way we see things, and I guess pushed upon us that we have to rely on our phones, our computers, and things like that. Even in schools and other places of teaching, most of it's done on computer. Like I'm doing uni through my computer and not in person, which is totally weird. And you don't have that connection with the people, as well as you don't have that fresh air and just being able to communicate easily and learn more about other people.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a really hi Adair. Thank you. I'm so glad you found me. I did see your message come through and just decided that I wasn't up to the multitasking skill of being able to conduct a conversation here and look for you in the chat room. So I'm so glad you found me. Aidan has just jumped on board because, oh, hi Tammy, how wonderful to see you. Aidan's just jumped on board because he gave me this beautiful quote of us becoming human doings rather than human beings. And he's just relating his experience of studying at university online. So what do you think you're missing out on by doing this in an online environment that perhaps you'd get more of if it was face to face?
The ability to actually learn from people instead of from all these booklets and things, as well as to be able to connect with new friends and the teachers themselves.
Absolutely. So do you feel like there's a richness missing from your education because is it less multidimensional perhaps?
Yeah, and it's all just, you've got to sit in front of the screen for hours on end, typing, doing these live classrooms, and it's so different, and just, I guess a lot of people don't realize how bad it actually can be for our well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's great to see you getting a really good source of balance there by you're talking to me outside, so you're getting that beautiful grounded Mother Earth energy coming through for you, supporting and nurturing you in, is this a break time for you? Having a
We're
break from
actually
study?
semester break, so I'm just enjoying the outside as well as I'm exploring a bit more. Probably this afternoon, going to the forest and going to the mountain to have a look at all the different animals and plants that are in the area.
Beautiful, lovely. I've just had a question come through for you, Aidan, from Susan Whelan. She's wanting to know what benefits that you're getting from being able to study this way, which is a really good question. You know, there are pros and cons to online learning. So for you, what are some of the benefits?
I guess it gives me more time to um, be at home and kind of do what I like, so I can do gardening and stuff, and I don't have to really travel outside of comfort zones to be able to go to uni. And that's one benefit of being able to study from the comfort of my bedroom.
Yeah,
Or
fair
even,
enough.
because it's a laptop, I come outside sometimes and sit under the rose bushes and do some work.
Okay, so there's some really beautiful personal benefits there, and you can actually go to class in your PJs if you really want to. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool too. Fabulous. Okay, so now if I knew how to um, gently exit you from the picture, I'd do that. I don't know how to do that, Aidan, do you?
Found it, yeah.
You
Thanks for
found it.
inviting me
Thank
on.
you so much.
That's all right. Have a
Thanks,
good day.
Aidan. So now, Susan, you are talking about prosperity consciousness against the scarcity. Absolutely. So looking for the benefits. So I think one of Susan's favourite questions when we're talking about some mindset stuff is when you come up against a brick wall, like I feel like I'm missing out on so much, is to flip that around and say, well, how am I benefiting in this situation? And that way you start to open your mind to the possibility that, yeah, you might be feeling lack in this particular area, but over on this side of the equation, there's actually a lot of sufficiency there for you. So very interesting. Tammy, it's so lovely to see you in here. I hope you're having a gorgeous day. And Adair, loving all the love hearts. Thank you very much for being here and joining me on this session today. I'm just going to check the time because I know that I said 30 minutes and it's probably lunchtime for a lot of people, so I don't want to hold you up too much. So the idea today was to talk about scarcity mindset and to start looking at ways that you can change the filter a bit, I think. We're being force-fed a particular filter by the media and our social norms, but we must take time to stop, I think, and recognize that in any situation that we're in, we always have a choice. And in particular with the scarcity mindset, we actually have a choice of whether we take on board the agenda that's put forward by the media about what's happening in the first world, or whether we choose to see some of the goodness and some of the benefit and some of the opening and opportunity that is always around us. So I just wanted to take this opportunity actually to talk to you a little bit more about upcoming lounge room chats that I've got planned. this ideally for me is an opportunity for us to start having some really decent dialogue about health, wealth, connection, and spirit. And it's not just a case of me talking to you about my experience and what I do. It's about me hearing what's coming back from you. But also, what I'd really like to do is to be inviting other wellbeing practitioners in to talk about what they do and what they offer, and to open up avenues for everybody to explore, because there's so many things out there. I know we've been talking about scarcity. So Susan, here's the sufficiency balance for you. There are so many things and so many ways that we can explore how to increase sufficiency in our own world, how to increase our own personal well-being, just by looking around and picking some things that are fun. So some of the things I want to explore are, some of the more psychic, intuitive things, such as tarot readings, mediumship, those sort of things. But I'm also really, I'm a very much get in touch with your body and work with your body as your barometer, basically, as your compass to guide you through your pathway. So I will be exploring some movement things such as yoga, dance therapy. Meditation is also a very, very strong, keen interest for me. Hello, Lorraine. I'm so grateful that you found time to join me today. How are you? And yeah, so there are so many things. I see Tammy Hatherall has joined us today, and I know she does wonderful work with her tarot and Reiki. So, hopefully we'll have the opportunity to talk at some stage in the future about how her work and my work are similar and yet different. We both do Reiki, but we both appeal to different people and we work in different ways. And that is what brings such richness to the world around us. There's a plethora of opportunity around. So that's what I'm planning to do. That's what's coming up. And I'd really love to continue this conversation with you over the coming weeks. And in the comments below, if things come up for you as a result of today's conversation or any of the conversations in the future, we can keep this dialogue going. Hello, Sultan. It's so nice to see you here. Thank you very much for joining in the Love Lali Lounge Room chat today. We've just spent a good half hour talking about scarcity mindset and what we can do to balance that up, balance our scarcity with sufficiency, our feeling of lack with a feeling of fullness. There's so many things that we can do. And certainly I think Aidan hit the nail on the head when he brought up his quote of, we've become human doings rather than human beings. Hello, Deirdre Waterson. How beautiful to see you here this afternoon. Thank you for taking time to join in. We are actually coming to the tail end of my 30 minutes, and I would like to keep that time at the 30 minutes unless there are any other questions or comments coming through right now. I will wrap it up. I'd like to honour this space of a short chat to talk about some of the really meaty stuff, and not run over people's times for too long. So I will be bringing invited guests in the future to have a chat about what's happening in their world. Thank you, Joanne. I'm so grateful that you joined me today. Thank you so much for your beautiful presence. And Adair, thank you so much for your beautiful presence here today. It's been gorgeous. So yeah, coming up over the next few weeks, keep your eyes peeled. When I get myself really organised, I'll actually have, a program listing for you so you can pick and choose which are the days that really appeal to you. Of course, I'd love to see you here every Wednesday. You're more than welcome. And we'll just see how this unfolds. Thank you so much. I'm Linda Emsley from Love Lali, and I've really enjoyed sharing with you today some different ways of thinking about scarcity mindset and how we can approach our world differently. Thanks, Michelle. It's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining in, and I look forward to lining you up for an interview in the not too distant future too. Not that I'm putting you on the spot in public at all in any way, but thank you, Aidan. I really loved you jumping in today. That was beautiful. Enjoy the rest of your study, and as Susan said, ask yourself periodically, what are the benefits for me studying in this way? It also might help you to think about some of the broader connections that you can make this way. So we can think and act local, and we can also impact globally. So thank you very much for joining me here. I'm going to leave it here for now and catch up with you again same time next Wednesday. Bye for now.